Tyler from TenThumbs Pro, and today we are talking the ukulele, but specifically really good habits that you can formulate as a beginner to not only accelerate your learning, but make you a stronger player in the future as well. I've been having a lot of fun with these kind of sitting on the couch, open dialogue kind of lessons. So we're gonna do it in this format. It's gonna be relaxed. New ukulele tutorials every single Wednesday and Saturday, guitar on Monday. So if you like this kind of content, think about subscribing. And if you love this kind of content, you can get printable tabs by coming to Patreon with links up in the notes. So what's the standard approach most beginners take? They learn a couple chords, C, G, A minor, F. And then they learn a couple strum patterns, maybe down, 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 up, down, 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 up, down, down, up, down, down, down. And they're like, hey, look, I can play Let It Be. And that's amazing. And maybe you learn a new chord, like a D and an A, and a new strum pattern, like down, 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 down. That is exactly how I learned. So I know it's effective, but there are a couple things that I see beginners doing that are not only stalling their progress, but they're creating some bad habits for the future. Tip number one, and I don't really have this, but we're gonna start at the very basic. Get a clip-on tuner. It's better, it's easier to use than a phone, and tune your ukulele every time you play. But if you want to take that another step, when you very first pick up your ukulele before you play the notes in order, and see if you can hear if any of those notes are out of tune. Or if you make a chord and it doesn't sound right, try to find the string that is out of tune. You don't have to know if it's high or low, just do your very best to hear which one is out of tune. This is going to help you with something we're going to talk about a little later in the video called active listening. All right, but that's a great way to start, and it will make sure your ukulele is in tune. That's the very first thing you want to start with, a great habit. So one of the easiest ones that you can do when you get started is every time you learn a new chord, like the C chord, try to find the root note. Why is that? Well, let's talk about how to do that first. So if I take a C, I have a C note here in my C string, and I have a C note here on the 3rd fret of my A string. If I play a G chord, I have a G note here with the G string, and a G note here on the 3rd fret of the E string. If I play an A minor, I have an A, 2nd fret of the G, and an open A. And if I play an F, I have one F note here on the 1st string. Anytime you learn any new chord, E7, B flat, B minor, 7 flat 5, whatever it is, you should know the root note. Why is that? Because later on in your playing, you're going to learn that these chords work on the entire fretboard. And if you know where the root note is, you know what chord you're playing. So while that might not have immediate dividends, by learning how to find these root notes in your shapes, you're going to not only learn how to move these chords, F, F note, G note, A note, you're also going to later on be able to learn the fretboard. So just take a couple seconds when you learn a new chord to find the root note. Root note is just a fancy name of saying the note that gives it a name. A minor, A is the root note. D minor, D is the root note. G major, G is the root note. G7, G is the root note. Just take a couple seconds and do that. I promise you, you can do it very quickly, and it will be very beneficial later. You might be tempted to use these 3 fingers. Or when I see people mash 2 fingers. These are all, I don't want to say bad habits because bad is such a negative word, but these are all unproductive habits, we'll call them. When you learn the D chord, learn to use these 3 fingers. Middle finger, ring finger, pinky, open. Why is that? Again, looking forward, you're going to be able to move that on the fretboard, making chords like the elusive E much easier. one of the earlier things that you should probably take the time to do from the very start is develop your rhythm. And I would suggest only doing downs, but doing it to a click track. A click track is also known as a metronome. You set the BPM, which stands for beats per minute. And what you're gonna do is just do a down every 4 clicks. So it's going click, 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 click. That's gonna develop your rhythm, which is an area where I see many people struggling with when they're beginners. Locking in that sense will also mean you'll be able to later do more advanced strum patterns to the clicks. Click, 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 click. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Another thing, speaking of rhythm, that I want you beginners to understand is a strum pattern is a suggestion. It's not a commitment. It's not a mortgage. You don't have to pay it for 20 years. It's just a suggestion. So if you have a strum pattern like down, down, up, up, down, up, and you have a friend going down, up, down, up, up, down, up, those work together. So they're not playing the wrong strum pattern. They're just adding rhythmic variance to it or varying the strum pattern, which is actually quite nice. I'll give you an example. I'll do down, down, up, up, down, up over the first 3 chords, and over the 4th chord, I'm gonna make a change. Just 1 extra up, and we were able to turn that around and give that strum pattern a lot more life. Another thing about rhythm that you should understand is it's on a count system. So when you're learning down, 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 you're really counting beats. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, as a true beginner, I don't expect you to commit to counting right away. I want to suggest that you start to understand it just a little bit. And in the simplest terms, at the beginning, downs are numbers and ups are ands. So if you have a strum pattern that goes down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, it would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. All downs, 1, 2, 3, 4. Down, up, down, down, up, down, 1 and 2, 3 and 4. Old Faithful, Calypso, Island Strum, 1, 2 and 4 and. So just be aware of that. It's really gonna come in handy later when you're doing the very important is mindful practice versus playing. I hear people say, oh, I have to play every day. I come home and I just have to. I need music in my life. But 2 years into it, they know 3 chords. Now, if that's where you want to be, that's totally fine. And I don't mean to disparage anyone that's comfortable in that zone. But for the people who are in that zone and want to progress and don't know why, it's because you're not executing intentional practice. Intentional practice can be as simple as learning a new chord, a new strum pattern, or something more complicated like a new song or a new scale. So how do you do it? Write your goals down. You want to know more chords? Learn more chords. You want to learn bar chords? You got to play bar chords. And if you only stay in your comfort zone, you're never going to be able to leave your comfort zone. Intentional practice. That's what we're going to call it. Now, if intentional practice feels overwhelming and you really do love to play, but you want to get better, make yourself a practice guideline and say, I'm going to do intentional practice for 10 minutes, then I'm going to strum for another 50. And you have a whole hour. In just 10 minutes, you can practice those new chords. And then you can spend the rest of that time playing what you love and enjoy, so you don't make the ukulele a job. You want it to be fun, and that's really important. And I think most beginners out there know that, and that's why they're playing it. But also, if you only do the fun stuff, you're not gonna improve. Music theory, do you need to know it? Yes and no. As a beginner, no, you do not. Do you want to advance? Do you want to write songs? Do you want to make melody? Do you want to compose? Yes, you do. So what's the best way to approach music theory? Well, I think a good way to do it would be understanding you have three elements of music. You have your rhythm, you have your melody, and you have your harmony. And so if you practice each of those individually, you'll have a deeper understanding of them. Another thing that if you are interested in music theory that I suggest you learn is keys. How to build a scale, how to turn that scale into chords, and then apply that information to those three areas. And if music theory is something you're interested in, I will link some tutorials in the description as well. In terms of good habits as well, play along with the song you want to learn. Make sure it's in the same key, turn it up, and play along with the recording that you want. Then you're going to you'll be developing rhythm, feel, groove, and all of these things. And your neighbors might hate this, but the louder you turn it up, the easier it is to play along with. Another good thing to get going from the beginning is your ear. Developing your ear with your playing. You think you're tone deaf, you're not, and I can prove it. Tell me which note is lower in pitch. Clearly the second one. And if you know that, it proves you're not tone deaf. You are just tone unrefined. That means it is an ear waiting to be developed. And how do we do that? Well, I would start with something very basic. When you hear a song on the radio, clap to the beat. Even if that's too hard for you, clap to the metronome that we talked about earlier. Click it on and clap to every click. Now, when you feel that in the song, clap to the song. That's step one to defining your ear. Step two, and this isn't chord progressions or learning the melody, a simple thing you can do is see how many instruments you can hear in a song. Are there two guitars or are there one? Is it drums, bass, guitar? Is it drums, bass, guitar, guitar? Is there a piano? Try to count how many instruments you can hear in a song. You can do this while you're driving. It's something very simple, and it's a very easy way to develop active listening. All right, one more time, active listening. And that will go a long way in your... There you have it, folks. Those are some tips, some good habits that you can establish as a beginner to not only accelerate your learning, but really set you up for some long-term success. Another one I would say, start with your scale sooner than later. And kind of understand how a scale can become a melody. But that's a little more advanced. This was geared towards habits for beginners. If you want to see another video that like habits transitioning from beginner to pre-intermediate, let me know, and I'd be more than happy to do that. Ukulele Wednesday, Saturday, guitar on Monday. Think about becoming a Patreon. It's cheaper than a cheap cheeseburger. And until next time, life is good, rock and roll. Have a lovely day.